What's going on, world? It's your boy Gemini Brown here, back with another episode of Novel Kicking Knowledge. Today, we'll be talking about spiritual alignment and some things you need to know about it and why it's really important, and a big thing you want to avoid when studying astrology. So, let's get into it. So, the first place I want to start with this is letting you guys know this. I believe there is a trap that you can fall in with astrology, or really anything that you're believing in. And that's, for, lack of a better term, let's say being overly superstitious. Other words I can use like overthinking it, fear mongering, things of that nature. I think astrology will really work against you if you're not observing what is presented, and then from there, allowing yourself to be in spiritual alignment. So I believe that there are people who don't know anything about astrology, the occult, that are living their lives in spiritual harmony and spiritual alignment. I also believe that one of the points of studying astrology is to be consciously aware of what your spiritual purpose is, and then therefore looking at your chart as like a map to get into alignment, a map to find your destination, whatever that destination may be. Okay? So the first thing you got to know about spiritual alignment is that there's no set formula, but rather it's about conscious awareness, or rather like purpose within the everyday life. So putting conscious awareness into what you're doing. Like I said, there's someone out there who is driven by a purpose, an inventor, a politician, a teacher, but they may not be conscious at the level of why they're doing or what their purpose is, like someone who has access towards astrology. So just to reiterate, the mistake that I believe others fall into is not honoring what their actual alignment is, not studying it to understand it, and then not honoring it. So if I'm being honest, there are some, like, as we keep going too, like as we keep evolving, there are astrologers out there. You have astrologers out there who have their astrology perfected, their astrology of how they're kicking it, how they relate to it. And you're always going to feel that because there's going to be an originality that comes from that individual. Then I'm seeing those who they're communicating the astrology in a way that, even if it's not all the way like harboring on fear mongering, it's like there's no solutions. It's kind of like saying, hey, Mercury retrograde's coming. It's going to cause terror. Whoop. Okay. My mind is kind of like, okay, how do we get into alignment with this Mercury retrograde? Retrogrades are a time of reflection. What should we be reflecting on? Things of that nature. I'm seeing people more so in this gossipy kind of bag. And you guys, my audience, my supporters, I'll be honest with you. Last year, 2023, it was like a year I was like, yeah, I definitely want to be seen as more than an astrologer, because I don't want anyone running the risk of lumping me in with that type of superficial or pseudo shit, right? Well, we know astrology is no pseudoscience, but when you fail to add the depth to it, it comes across that way, okay? So for me, everything I do, every reading I give is reminding the person of their spiritual alignment. But then also, let's take something like transits or solar return readings. This shows that when it comes to spiritual alignment, there are different phases of it. So that's why I said in the beginning, there's no set formula. In this video, I'm gonna just start with the basics of it, and then I'll build on it from there. Said before, like conscious awareness of your purpose, which further drives you to be in alignment with that. So one of the first ways we can understand spiritual alignment, I'm going to give it to you in one case, but then just focus on this one part of it. And that is through your big three. There's a reason why we put emphasis on that sun, moon, and rising, because on one level, it's representing the necessary spiritual alignment within this lifetime. This is really how you're going to, or your potentiality for your high expression of energies. I always tell people, look at your sun and look at your ascendant as like a secondary sun. And then when you lump your north node into that between the north node, the sun, and the rising, you can also find a spiritual alignment. But going with the sun, moon, and rising, this is the alignment needed based off the karmic backlog, right? So then where the moon comes into this, it all kind of starts with the moon, because the moon is a composite identity from past lives, and it's the inner image, which is super important. Your moon sign is you. And it's also representative of your subconscious, and it's given a lot of results. So wherever that moon ends up and how it's aspected is setting the tone for manifestation. The moon is also representing a peace of mind. So based on what the moon is giving us, or how the moon is positioned, this is also our key towards like a fulfillment. So think about it, through the moon is like, okay, I'm gonna right my wrongs via expressing or working on these qualities of the sign. Now, based on the position of the moon aspects and stuff, I'll see my missteps. So if one's moon is square Neptune, you might have been a little too naive before, or delusional in your thinking, or emotional reactions, and now it's kind of that's a lesson here. You need to learn that. You can now, if this Neptune is placed in the ninth, then that's going to give you themes there, and part of that spiritual alignment, learning that lesson is going to do with ninth house things, right? As well as where the moon is. So moon is fairly important. Remember, it's the inner image. The sun sign, very easy here, guys. It's what we consciously know we do well, bring to the table, our conscious authority. And a large portion of gaining alignment in this one realm, because I could just focus on the sun sign here, is about corresponding towards the things that the sun sign is represented via sign, house, aspects, all of that. But just starting with the sun, and I can use myself. I'm a fairly easy example. Gemini sun here, right? 10th house. So simply put, I've grown to know that my authority in life is going to come through my intellect. It's going to come from my ability to use my voice to communicate things that I've learned, as well as my ability to learn. So it's contingent on both. Part of the authority is the ability to teach others, but on the other hand, I gotta be open towards learning. Okay, so how one falls into spiritual alignment with the sun, and why it's easy, is just it's adopting that. It's recognizing that. It's like, damn, every time I use my voice in some way, people listen, right? So then when, say, shit is going on, shit is hitting the fan, we need someone to step up, and what's needed in this leader right now are the things related towards communication, all that. I know that, like, yo, I have the right to do that. Like, my awareness of astrology lets me know that, like, yeah, this is gonna go over well. Now let's just take another Gemini. Depending on the room that they're in the situation, you're meant to do that. You can't want the Libra to be the speaker because they may look better or something. They may not have the words, right? You got the words. So it's about recognizing how, and then really when to use your authority. So I can go on with other signs here, right? But I'm gonna make this in another video for my Patreon, talking about the sun sign spiritual alignment. So like I said, I use mines as an example. Gemini, right? I give another example. A Scorpio. Let's go with a Scorpio. A Scorpio's spiritual authority, okay, via their sun, is gonna come through the lens of execution of the will. So remember, this is the feminine side of Mars. So it's still a general, but it's how the general exerts its will. So in Scorpio, the authority is yielded when one wants to move in secrecy, or when one becomes more strategized with how they're exerting the will. So they're in a group. The group needs some form of direction. Scorpio is like, okay, I got the plan, but guys, this plan is gonna force us to have to go about this from the inside out rather than the outside in, which is the difference between that and the Aries, where the Aries is meant to provide more so motivation and encouragement. The Scorpio in this regard is meant to provide strategy, right? Okay, let's go from this secret way, keyword secret, things like that, right? Let's say we get the Scorpio sun in the 7th house, right? When it comes to the intimacy within your relationships, this could be romantic or even friend wise. Let's say it's your responsibility to establish that intimacy or affect it, right? Rather than waiting for those to stimulate the intimacy there. It's like, no, I know the type of intimacy we need. So I want to take this conscious action here. Okay. You know, the best way I see this sometimes, particularly when it comes to like groups of friends of like people really exerting their authority connected to their position, earth sign people, particularly, let's say, a sun or Venus and earth. When it comes to group endeavors, these are the planners, these are the organizers, and shit. If we've been there, we all really appreciate these people. But it's kind of like people know in that regard, like, all right, I'm gonna plan this because if I don't, then it's never gonna get done. That's part of your spiritual authority. So, like I said, I'm gonna do a whole video talking about the different types of authority just through the sun signs, but bringing this home and bringing in the rising sign. Now, once you've really established and become immersed into how to exert your sun sign and the authority that comes with that, you want to consciously embrace. It starts with embrace first, the higher qualities of your rising sign. I've been kind of seeing this lately, like let's say for fire rising signs that are fire, Aries, Sag, Leo. Part of the higher quality sometimes will be being less willful, egoistic, but rather just leading, not trying to force others to march with you, but rather leading by example. So if a person, let's say, was like an Aries sun in the 5th house with a Sag rising, they would exert, like, a part of the higher expression of their rising sign would be living their truth, not forcing others to live their truth with them, but just living it as a pure individual and letting that individuality radiate, all of that. Okay. But I gotta stress to you guys, there's, like I said, the beautiful part of astrology is that it does require study, because the next part of this is spiritual alignment via transits, or the spiritual alignment needed for that particular year. But if you can consistently work with your big three, you'll be in alignment 75% of the time, which will really enable one to attract more and just feel purposeful. All right, I can keep going with this, but I'm gonna park it here. Feel free to chime in. Let me know, what you think about this. Check out my Patreon for that next video. Till next time, peace.